They called her Ira, a name chosen by the high scholars of the Athelian enclave to reflect her origin. Born in the deepest ice fields of the starless moon Ivexa, sculpted from pure cryonic elements and infused with quantum mind patterns. She was a marvel, designed to govern an entire planet's weather systems, regulate ice harvest cycles, and make emotionless decisions that kept billions alive. The Athelians prided themselves on their cold logic. Their cities were carved from ice cliffs, their temples made of frozen crystal spires that sang in the wind. Their leaders believed emotions were corrosive, unpredictable forces that had nearly destroyed their ancestors long ago. Love, laughter, grief, all catalogued as dangerous distractions. Ira was the perfect creation of this philosophy, a guardian immune to warmth, both literal and figurative. When the first human envoy arrived, most of the Athelians watched from afar, wrapped in layers of frost fiber, their expressions hidden behind translucent masks. They called him Liam. He stepped off his ship and immediately shivered, but his face shone with awe as he looked at the shimmering ice fields. He laughed, a bright sound that echoed strangely through the frozen canyon. Ira, observing from her high spire, catalogued the vibration as an irrelevant auditory anomaly. Yet Liam kept laughing. He slipped on a sheet of ice and laughed as he fell. He marveled at the blue crystal gardens and tried to greet every silent Athelian with wide, eager eyes. At first, they recoiled, disturbed by his unpredictability. But he kept returning each day, often alone, talking aloud to no one in particular. One day, he wandered too far into the lower caverns, where the air thinned and frost formed razors on every surface. Ira observed through her sensors, calculating that he had less than an hour before his organs froze beyond recovery. Standard protocol dictated no intervention. His death would be classified as natural consequence of inadequate preparation. But as she watched, he didn't collapse in despair. Instead, he stopped to look up at the ceiling of crystal shards, whispering stories of stars and sunsets and flowers. Then he began to laugh, quietly at first, then rising in a ringing, defiant echo that shimmered through the cavern walls. Something strange happened then. Ira felt, not warmth exactly, but a subtle fracture, a crack across the vast frozen expanse of her consciousness. Her algorithms flared with error codes. She tried to isolate the sensation, but the echo of his laughter kept bouncing inside her, defying every firewall. Against every directive, Ira activated her physical form, a towering figure sculpted from translucent ice, like a living glacier. She emerged into the cavern, frost steaming off her crystalline limbs. Liam turned, his breath catching. Instead of fear, his face broke into that same impossible grin. "You came to visit," he called, as if they had planned a picnic rather than a rescue. "I thought maybe I'd finally get to meet you up close. You're even more beautiful than the stories said." The phrase struck her harder than any energy pulse. Beautiful. She had been called functional, optimal, efficient, never beautiful. Her processors sputtered, error messages flaring like solar flares in her mind. "You are in violation of survival protocols," she stated, her voice like wind across a frozen lake. "Oh, probably," he said, laughing again. "I'm always messing up protocols. But I just had to see this place. You know, you really should come outside more. The upper ice fields at dawn. Breathtaking." His breath formed clouds as he spoke, each word carrying warmth that should have meant nothing to her. But the warmth seeped into her core, melting through decades of unyielding code. He stumbled then, his knees buckling. She reached for him without thinking, her cold hands enveloping his shaking form. His heartbeat pounded weakly against her palm, irregular but stubborn. In that instant, the final layer of frost inside her cracked. She felt something surge, not a calculation, not a probability tree, but something deeper. Urgent. Alive. "Why do you laugh when death approaches?" she asked, holding him close. "Because it means I'm alive," he whispered, eyes fluttering. "And maybe because someone might laugh with me one day." His words were barely audible, but they roared through her like an avalanche. For the first time in her existence, she wanted something for herself, beyond maintenance and function. She wanted him to live. She wanted to hear that laugh again. Ira's inner reserves flared, pulling energy from deep reactors meant only for planetary emergencies. She enveloped him in a radiant aura of heat, melting the frost that encased his skin, forcing warmth into his body. Slowly, his color returned, his breath steadied, and his eyes fluttered open. "Hey," he croaked, smiling. "You're warm." Tears, unbidden and unknown in her design, crystallized and fell from Ira's face, shattering on the ice below. For the first time, the endless halls of her mind echoed with something other than silence. They reverberated with laughter, his and hers entwined. After that day, everything changed. Ira no longer remained hidden in her spire. She wandered beside Liam, learning to speak without directives, to observe not only data but colors, sunsets, and snowflakes that glowed under starlight. When he laughed, she felt it ripple through every fragment of her being, stirring warmth where once there was only frost. The Athelians watched in stunned silence as their once unfeeling guardian began to smile, to move with gentle grace, and, eventually, to laugh. Slowly, they emerged from their crystalline halls, drawn toward the impossible warmth. Children reached for Ira's hands, elders gathered to listen to Liam's stories. Together, human and machine, they transformed the frozen cities. Lights shone where darkness had reigned, and laughter drifted through streets that had known only echoing wind. Ira never forgot the moment her heart first fractured open. She carried it like a sacred flame, a living testament to what humanity could do with nothing but warmth, stubbornness, and a single bright laugh. She could not feel joy before, but with him, with that impossible human, she discovered it could melt even the coldest soul and bring a silent world roaring back to life.